Aye.
Okay, we're gonna call the Health Services Committee meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting? Supervisor Bruno, second by Supervisor Gilligan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, privilege of the floor. Any supervisors or anyone from the public have anything they'd like to address the board with before we start? Okay, being done. Rob, I think you're up.
Whoa. Good morning, sir. Oh, yes. I have a few requests and a report to go over. My first request is to approve 2 new contracts for opioid settlement funds. Those would be with the City of Glens Falls and Catholic Charities Care Coordination Services. These 2 projects complement one another and together will comprise what's called Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program with the City of Glens Falls Police Department.
Okay, can I have a motion to bring this to the floor? Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Gilligan. Anyone have any questions for Rob on those? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Okay, my second request, thank you. My second request is to amend the 2025 Warren County budget, the amount of $126,695 to allow for acceptance and pass through of 100% state aid funding for, this was a cost of living adjustment that was included in the 25-26 New York State budget. There's a table attached there, Schedule B, that shows how those funds are distributed among various contract agencies.
Okay, can I have a motion to bring this to the floor? Supervisor Patchett, Supervisor Gilligan, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carries.
All right, then for the third item, it probably would make sense if I were to address the discussion item first. That is the CPL 730 competency expenses report for Q1 and Q2. That should be a handout you have as well. This breaks out and shows our chargeback expenses for the first quarter of the year. Out of this budget line, we pay for both the chargeback expenses, which are the restoration expenses from the state, as well as our exam expenses. The exam expenses you can see are a smaller amount, but every order for competency exam requires 2 psychiatric examiners. And so we have contracts with local psychologists to perform those. So we had 304,077 in the first quarter, and then a total of 219,531 second quarter, for a mid-year total of 523. And for the year, we had budgeted 600,000. So we're right up on our full year amount, which is the reason for my third request, which would be a request to transfer 500,000 from the fund balance to cover the balance of the year. And again, we have no idea of knowing, it's just a guess as to the amount.
Okay, can I have a motion to bring this to the floor? Anyone? Supervisor Wild, do I have a second? Supervisor Patchett? Okay, any questions? I know you do. We all hate this here. This is, go ahead, Mr. Wild.
So last time this came up in committee meetings, I was kind of concerned because these are all state employees that are doing the chargeback expenses. We don't have any control over this. It's all the state.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
the state doesn't provide any funding for this.
No.
Right.
No, and then it's in statute that it's charged on the county.
So do we have any way of managing how much they spend?
We really don't. Those are based on facility rates that the state sets. So it's a per diem charge based on what their formula is for determining what the facility charge is per day per person. One thing we are doing is I've been talking with Greg Canali, public defender, and have had some preliminary discussions with Jason Carasone as well. We'll be, Greg and I were talking about maybe getting us all together again. I know we had a work group earlier, included Christine. And we learned that the state through NISAC was advocating for changes. And my statewide association was advocating for changes, but it just appeared like those aren't really going anywhere. So we thought we'd get together and see, is there anything locally we can do? Because we don't think we have control over this, but I don't know. Are there any other options we can look at? We'll look at it.
Well, we're funding the state. I think we should look at doing some of this work ourselves locally. If we
That's one of the
can.
things we're gonna be looking at, is to see, is there an option for outpatient restoration for some portion of these folks? That would be one of the things we'll be looking at.
Have we ever looked at what the state budget is for this specific organization? Wondering how efficient they really are in terms of staffing and everything else, and whether we're just paying for extra staff. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Bruno?
Provide any backup here, any details, et cetera, for these expenditures?
They do provide us with some information. We do get a list of who the people are, how long they've been in there, what their diagnoses are, what their medications are. They provide that to us, I believe, monthly.
So these expenses are incurred by people who are working with them, monitoring them or whatever, is that correct? So do you get in other words, who's monitoring them? Who's looking at this saying, hey, he had 200 hours, probably should have had 150, you know, that sort of thing. Somebody, I mean, and I've been a manager and whatnot, if I have people working for me, I'm looking at what they're doing, how efficient they are, to Mr. Wild.
Right, and that was one of the issues we identified in the earlier work group with Christine. And you know, it just there's really not a checks and balances to the system. It's clinical decision making by the state employees.
There's a state. So there's no.
So there's no incentive to let people out early.
Exactly.
Administrator.
Chair,
Chapman?
if I could
Oop.
just clarify, there's no letting out early, really. It's returning to a criminal proceeding.
Yeah.
So these are incompetency proceedings that arise in the course of a criminal prosecution in the county court for Warren County. So somebody's been charged with a felony, or in theory, a Class A misdemeanor, and something has happened or occurred to convince the court, the judge, that there's a question on the competency of the individual to stand trial, meaning he doesn't understand the nature and consequences of his actions, and he's unable to, in a meaningful way, participate in his defense with his counsel. It's a two-part test.
And this is determined by,
This is initially determined by the court that there's a question as to the individual's competency, which prevent him from constitutionally proceeding forward with a trial or a plea or any other resolution on the criminal charge. So when this stay is completed, it's my understanding, and I'm not the two experts, or the experts that have already been referenced, the public defender and the district attorney. But it's my general understanding that that individual potentially is returned to the county to continue with the prosecution if they are now in a place of stability and
those two that you
competency.
mentioned are the ones that determine whether this person is competent or not.
No, the judge sends it out to experts, which is what's occurring at that facility, to examine and determine the status of the individual. And then if it's possible, to bring him to a place of competency so he can come back to then stand trial for the charges which sent him to the facility. I don't believe, and I would ask the Mr. York to correct me, but it's not an individual is having difficulties in the community and they end up in a state facility, and this is what this is about. This is about individuals who have been charged with a crime who are not competent, or there's a question as to their competency, which sends them to the state facility for examination, and they remain at that facility until they are deemed competent to return and engaged back in the criminal proceeding. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page of who we're talking about and why they're in this facility.
I understand that, but what we're asking for here is some accountability. Because you say they send them to some place, and then what do? They sit there for 2-3 weeks, then a psychiatrist or someone examines them, says, oh, they haven't made any progress. What help are they getting? That sort of thing. And we need to know.
Administrator Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was, the big issue appears to be, and there was a bill introduced in the legislature, an assembly bill last year that did not get out of committee to better define what is competency to stand trial versus general recovery. And that in the original law apparently there's confusion there. And this is why some people are held longer. The key question for the treatment facilities, and it's specified they have to be, there are 3, I believe, Rob, right? The treatment facilities, they range in cost from about $1,300 a month to about $1,500 or $1,600, or I mean a day, $1,600 a day. And they're supposed to just determine if the person is competent enough to stand trial and then release them back to the county, but in our case, or the municipality. And that is the point that they were trying to clarify in this bill, but the bill did not make it out of committee last year. It will be reintroduced this coming legislative session. The treasurer sent a very well-constructed letter to the comptroller, Office of the Comptroller, asking for a little bit more visibility into what the charges are for these stays. And I don't believe we received a response at all. So the other issue we have to be very cautious with is the District Attorneys Association has, and also the whatever State Judges Association there is, have said we don't have the right to interfere with a person's right to a fair trial. And if the public defender, district attorney, or the judge determines a person may not be competent enough to understand the charges against them, then they are considered, you know, they invoke 730, CPL 730. They're evaluated by 2 separate psychologists that we have, correct, Rob?
Yes.
And those make the recommendation as to whether they get sent to one of these facilities to be further evaluated.
Supervisor Gilligan.
Thank you.
Do they ever max out? Like what happens if they can never?
That's been
Yeah.
our challenge along. You know, we've had people in there for over a year. And I think we have someone that's been in there all year, I believe, correct?
I think that person got released.
That person.
Yeah.
Supervisor Patchett.
Ever look, can we have a form a coalition with other counties to maybe have a more of a group effort?
Well, I thought we had done this with the Association of Counties.
We did, that's what we did.
Okay.
So we took the advice of the Association of Counties. There were a couple counties that came forward and said, we want to introduce a resolution or pass some type of legislation encouraging reform, and they were discouraged from doing so by NISAC. They've been working on this for about 2 years now, trying to get some improvements. The big issue The single biggest issue was prior to 2 years ago, when we committed, when these people were not committed, but when they went to these treatment facilities, the state was paying half of the cost. And so we were only paying for half of the cost of their treatment, which would have been about $750 a day. 2 years ago, the state said, we're not going to do that anymore. It's on you. And we've been paying 100% of the cost now.
Wasn't this also a federal government mandate?
I don't believe so.
It's a constitutional mandate from the US Constitution.
But every county in New York State's dealing with it. We're not alone
Not
in any
alone.
way.
No, and it's frustrating, this, poor Rob comes here and, we have to deal with this and their hands are tied. But I am very happy to hear that you talked to the public defender and the district attorney and Treasurer Norton to, maybe come to some kind of solution or some kind of query with it we can give and maybe get other counties on board. But yeah, this is, this was got hit hard last year with this. And
We'll keep looking at it
Yeah.
locally to see if there's anything we can do.
Supervisor Wild?
Yeah, I'm just curious, is there any timeout where they say this person is never going to be competent?
Yes.
And then what happens to those individuals?
There's a mechanism and it's called Jackson relief and it has to do with a court case, Jackson versus, I don't know the other party. But it was, it's where you basically can file and say that the person is not restorable.
Which means what then? Where do they end up?
It would be a court hearing to determine whether or not that's true. State would bring their witnesses, presumably the psychiatrist from the facility. And we would have to, it's generally the facility that would have to be making that case.
So, but what happens?
So I don't know, I would think we would have standing and I would defer to Attorney Elman on this.
I've exhausted my knowledge of competency hearings. It's not something I had to deal with in my,
So that's one of the things
prior to being a county attorney.
one of the things we can explore in that work group with Jason and Greg Canali as to whether or not who has standing to bring a Jackson hearing to file for it. And what the standards would be, to bring that.
Well, it is frustrating that we get dumped on this by the state. And no checks and balances
No
by
comment.
the state. And that's to me a real concern.
You're preaching to the choir, Mike, so. Supervisor Thomas?
Are all three facilities state run? So there's no option besides New York State. They think they have the, edge on restoring people. I don't know how they do that, because they're not very competent themselves.
Okay, well, any other questions? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Rob, anything else?
Well, that's all I had.
Sure.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll see you on Friday.
Rob.
Yeah. It's so inviting. There.
I'm just asking for some detail, some accountability. I'm not against
I agree with you.
providing.
I don't think there's one person here that doesn't.
Yeah, you're 100%.
Right, your treasurer? I can't hear you.
Does the state?
Do you want to say something before we start? All right, then please go right ahead. Wait. Yeah, but hang on, no, let me just do privilege of the floor. Okay, we'll, call the
Matter of,
Privilege of the floor.
public health to order. Can I have a motion to? Oh, I did with that one too? Okay, you're so good. Okay, privilege of the floor, Treasurer Norton.
Rob and Greg Canali and Mr. Carasone, and we've been working on this since last year. And it was 4 years ago, actually, to John's point, it was 4 years that the state stopped funding 50%, or they never funded it. They simply requested that we only pay 50%. And Rob was absolutely right. In the statute, the counties are 100%. Couple things I just want to bring to your attention. Larry, can you tell me who pays the court judges, who pays for their salaries?
It's this, okay, which judges are we referring to? Are we
The judges
talking
that-
about the county court judges and the Supreme Court judges that sit here at the
Yes,
at the municipal center? It's the Office of Court Administration. It's the state of New York.
correct. So the state of New York are the judges. Who's paying the DA and the public defender get paid by a combination of us, correct? New York State and the county?
No, the county
County.
pays
Okay, thank you.
the salaries for the district attorney and the public defender in their offices.
Okay, sometimes there's grants, but so it is a black box. And I've just kind of dropped it for a little bit because of other priorities, but this is a huge topic of a conversation. And again, John was absolutely right. But it is moving incredibly slow, and NISAC is, they do have something going on this. The other thing that we can do with this black box, so they're New York State judges, it's a New York State facility. We pay for the psychologists, the first ones that say the guy has to go to restoration. But I think there's not only Jackson Relief, but Greg Canale is also looking at local things like we talked about. And there's something that we may be able to challenge within 60 days. There's something that Greg Canale is working on. So I'm kind of excited about that. But bottom line, I think the state is blurring the lines between competency and mental illness. So what I would like to do, I did write a letter to the New York State controller. What we planned on doing, and maybe we can pick it back up in the latter part of the year, is actually looking for some transparency in the reporting. So I just wanted to let you know, there's a couple of things that are going on. But it is a black box and we've been working on it for a while.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer. Janelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna pass it off to Ton to talk about our new resolution request. Attachment 1, we have 3 transfers. The first one, to bring to your attention, we have a grant, our Children's Special Health Care Needs Grant that our early intervention person has to be at 35% and the preschool person is at 15%. So we have to bring them up to where it's got to be for the budget. So I'm moving money to cover those salaries in that grant, which totals, I don't have the total there, sorry to say, but it's the first one listed. I don't know, do you want me to read all 3 at this time, or you have to go one by one?
We can do all 3, I suppose, can't we?
Do them all
One
by one? It's one.
Yeah,
Okay,
So we'll bring this one to the floor. If I can have a motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Gilligan. Okay, now do you have discussion on this?
I was just saying I was bringing it to where the budget needs to be, so I will be moving the money over there and then doing a journal entry to move those salaries, and we can build a grant for that total. So that they wanted at 35% and 15%. We were at 30% and 12% in salary, so their time is partially goes to this grant until they're to the early intervention and preschool programs. So this will fix that. So the end of, this grant ends the end of September. So, and then starts again October 1st. The second one
Oh,
is,
First,
that-
we gotta vote on this one.
oh, you gotta vote on that again?
Look at that one. There's 3 different transfers for 3 different, but it's all one transfer of funds. So the total transfer of funds for all 3 requests, $17,569. All in.
What goes this one request? Okay,
Is that right, Son?
so you want me to go and?
No, let's vote on the resolution.
Vote them all.
You're voting on all these together, one transfer of funds as far as where it's.
Correct.
So that's what she's explaining. There's 3 different divisions in this transfer, but it's all within budget transferring to settle out. salaries, correct? So the total of the transfer is $17,560.
That's what we're voting on.
I just didn't need to know if I had to explain each one separately. I don't. Okay.
No, and we have a motion. Anyone have any questions for Son? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carries?
So attachment 2, because those are along now is our financials that were as of August fifth. Noting again that we're at 51.41% of the salary compared to last year, we were at 55.74%. We are under budget from last year from overtime and part-time salaries, which is good. And nothing really major to go there. And then attachment 3 is just comparing last year at this time to this year. And you'll see that the big thing is our equipment line. We're in the process of doing a lot of construction down there and furniture, and we have an infrastructure grant. So our equipment line for this year is 80,000 compared to 35,000 last year. And majority of that difference is all of this construction that's going on. That was phase 1. We've done phase 2, I believe. We're into phase 3 now. So you'll see more coming up. Contractual expenses are just due to timing of billing. So that'll all be caught up by the end of the year and look good. And employee benefits again is, just due to salary increases and stuff, fringes that increase related to salaries and health benefits that increase. So that's all I have.
Janelle?
We have our regular discussion, handouts there that were distributed with the agenda. And just worth noting, we have a rabies clinic coming up on the 13th of September at the Queensbury Community Center from 10 to noon. And then in August, we have the 2 car seat safety checks. Tuesday, August 26th from 10 to 1 will be at the Chestertown Volunteer Fire Station. And Wednesday, August 27th from 1 to 4 will be at the Warrensburg Fire Station to do those. And that's all we have.
Have any questions for Janelle? I want to say this really nice is protect yourself and your family from rabies exposure on the back was quite lot. It's, it's something that I believe Don, does he post that on the Facebook or website or any of that? Cause it's some very good information there. But most people might not understand it, but how you contact rabies, so. All right, so anything else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Gilligan, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Thanks.